In this video, I will explain you the rotation and size area for CW views. The rotation and size is very important if you are working with sparks here. The first options are meant for the rotation. Min and maximum are used for the rotation random value. I will show you later. First, we see the minimum value, which is the default rotation value for our views or for our sparks. Here you see we can rotate locally the x-axis. The three values are meant for x, epsilon, and z. And this value is used for the epsilon. So you see the sparks are rotating in the epsilon direction. And this one is for z, for the up axis. So if you change, for example, to x and move the fuse, then it will follow the curve, but will be rotated into a local x value here. The same happen if you change it, for example, to here and move the sparks. The next interesting option is rotation random. The sparks rotation max values are only used if you set or if you check this box here. So let's do it here. And for example, if you want to rotate random by the epsilon value, so currently nothing happens, but you can change this or this value to set a maximum and minimum rotation. So these are the words here in the bracket. So the minimum value will be used for epsilon, for example, will be used here, and the maximum value, the random value, will be used here. So for example, if we want to rotate between 0 and 45 degrees, we type in 45 here. And now you see all the sparkles are rotated by random in the epsilon direction. We can see it here also when I move them around, then you see the epsilon direction will be moved, but not every spark will be moved the same way. All the sparks are rotating randomly. When I switch it off, then you see all the sparks are again the same rotation, and in this way they are rotated by random. The same can be done here, for example, if you want to rotate to 45 and maybe minus 45, and in this way the rotation is random. Okay, these are the rotation random values for the sparks here. Another thing is the rotation seed. So if the rotation random values are set, you can change the rotation seed, and it changes the version of rotations that are used for the random values. The next area here is the sparks scale area. It's basically the same like the minimum and maximum values for rotation, but it's used for scaling. At the moment, I've set the sparks to 0.1 and some values, because this value basically, or by default, is used for the size of your sparks that came from the spark collection here of the fused sparks. And if you set them or leave them to 1, which is default, then you see very big sized sparks. Why is this so? Because the spark objects that came from the collection are originally in this size made, so they are built in this size. So I change it back to 1.15, for example. Oh wait, 0.15, 1.15, and now we have this size here. Interesting will be if you switch the scale random on. In this way, the sparks are changing, because now all the values are used from 0.1 to 0. So you can see when I change it, you can set the maximum spark random value for the scaling here in this area. So you can also just use this value or the Z elements, and of course all the values here. It's very cool because And now you have much more interesting sparks. And if you add the rotation random elements to this, then you see when I play the animation and set the flicker per second to, let's say, 10, then it became a very interesting object. I set the split degree to, let's say, 90 degree, and now it looks like this. And if we add maybe 200 sparks, then it looks much more interesting. Good. So you can see the sparks random value gives the sparks a very cool appearing. So when I switch it off, then they look very equal, but in this way they became much more interesting. I suggest you to don't use very low values. For example, if you have a value of 0.15, I would use 0.15 through 2, so by 2, so it means it has a half value. So when I use this, it looks really nice, or maybe a bit smaller, depending what you want. At least you are free what you are doing. So the random value here generates a random sized spark. Here the last option is for the seed. The seed just means you can change the version or the random result here by changing a seed value and decide which one looks better for you. But if you see, when I use an animation, there is not much difference. So I don't know, maybe you need this scale random seed. I've built it in. I think it's a nice feature to have it. Okay, so you can see these are the options for rotation and size for your sparks here.